Welcome, my dear Leos, both new faces and loyal listeners who have been walking this journey with me on Golden Fortune Leo. Let us begin with a truth that may feel both unsettling and liberating. Life has a way of surrounding you with smiles, applause, and voices that claim to support you. Some of those smiles are genuine, born from admiration of your courage and warmth. Others, however, are as rehearsed as lines from a Broadway play. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, is about to hand you a front row seat to see which is which. This is not paranoia, nor is it some petty jealousy disguised as insight. It is, rather, what I like to call cosmic housekeeping. Because in your year of triumph 2025, no falsehood can orbit too close to a heart as luminous as yours. Those of you who know the burden and blessing of being among the chosen ones understand, the sun may tolerate shadows for a time, but it never allows them to linger indefinitely. To grasp this lesson, we must speak of masks. Society thrives on them. From the workplace to the dinner table, people wear them as shields crafted from insecurity, habit, or sometimes naked manipulation. These masks can last years. Decades, even. Yet when a Leo walks into the room, when authentic light cuts through the atmosphere, the mask begins to itch. The seams loosen, the glue weakens, the disguise falters. Light doesn't just brighten, it exposes. Picture a cheap ring glittering under soft candlelight. Lovely, isn't it? But place that same ring under the noon sun, and suddenly every scratch, every imperfection, every pretense of value is revealed. That is what it is like to stand in your presence. You are the midday sun, Leo, and those who try to pass themselves off as gold when they are merely brass cannot endure your brilliance for long. Here's the irony, the heaviest masks are not always worn by obvious adversaries. More often, they belong to the very people who sit closest to you. The trusted confidant who seems to know you best. The partner who insists they only want what's safe for you. The friend who claps loudest when the spotlight is on you, only to whisper doubts into the ears of others when your back is turned. Why do they do this? Because proximity to the sun offers them warmth they cannot produce on their own. Standing near you, they are illuminated by default, like the moon borrowing light it never generated. But cosmic law is unrelenting. No one feeds off the radiance of a chosen one forever. Eventually, God or fate, or karma, however you wish to name it, flips the switch. And when that switch flips, the mask doesn't just slip. It crashes. It shatters in such a way that even your natural generosity can no longer excuse it. Now, this revelation will not arrive quietly. The universe does not deal in half measures. Exposure happens not through gossip or whispers but through action. They will reveal themselves in the plain light of day, often in a moment so ordinary that you will wonder how you missed it before. A cutting remark disguised as concern. A flash of envy in the eye when you share good news. A joke that cuts a little too close to your heart. You will not need anyone to tell you. You will not need to double-check the facts. The truth will announce itself with the clarity of thunder after lightning. And while the sting will be sharp, remember, it is not betrayal for betrayal's sake. It is initiation. It is a training ground in discernment, a lesson in learning to trust the radar you have always carried within. The irony of this whole ordeal is that, years from now, you may even laugh about it. Think of the sheer effort it must take to play the role of number one fan while secretly auditioning for the part of hidden rival. Imagine the rehearsals, the costume changes, the constant upkeep of lines meant to convince both you and themselves of their loyalty. And then, at the most inconvenient moment for them and the most instructive moment for you, the script falls apart. The mask drops mid-performance. Shakespeare himself could not have written a more dramatic revelation. You, Leo, will feel the pain of it, yes. But later, you will also savor the irony, and perhaps even thank the universe for sparing you from the farce. So welcome to this lesson, Radiant Lions. It is not punishment, though it may feel like it. It is preparation. You are being readied for a higher stage, a stage where your authenticity can no longer be diluted by borrowed light or false devotion. In your year of triumph 2025, there is no room for half-truths or fragile masks. Only those who celebrate you without envy, who encourage you without restriction, who admire you without secretly competing, will remain. Everyone else? Their masks will fall, because the midday sun does not negotiate with shadows. And you, Leo, were never meant to. Leo, if we were going to be brutally honest, and you know I like honesty dressed up in a bit of poetry, your generosity is the kind of thing that could make saints blush. It is both your crown and your Achilles heel. You were born under the sun itself, and you shine just as naturally. Compliments, encouragement, protection, you scatter them like flower petals tossed in celebration down the main street of a parade. And most of the time, that dazzling largesse makes you magnetic. People want to be around someone who can lift the room simply by walking into it. But magnetism has a catch. It doesn't just pull in gold, it also pulls in rust. For every soul who treasures your warmth, there are those who see it as a resource to tap, a commodity to exploit, a spotlight they can step into without earning. These are the subtle opportunists, the ones who master the art of cloaking their fear in the language of care. They say, "I'm just looking out for you," while nudging you away from risks that might catapult you to heights they can't follow. They tell you that playing small is safe, that caution is wisdom, that waiting is maturity. And because loyalty means something to you, Leo, because when someone pledges to stand by your side, you take it as sacred, you listen. You give them the benefit of the doubt. After all, isn't it noble to consider the counsel of those who claim to care? Yet here's the paradox, your nobility is their leverage. The very loyalty that defines your greatness becomes the rope with which they tether you. Now ask yourself, as a researcher might pose to a student, how many times have you walked away from an opportunity that thrilled your heart, only to mutter later, maybe they were right, while your soul quietly whispered, no, they were afraid? And let's not sugarcoat it, they weren't afraid for you. They were afraid of you. Afraid of how high you might soar if you followed your instincts. Afraid of being left behind in the shadow of your light. This is the paradox of generosity, and the universe, with its inexhaustible patience but also its ruthless precision, has decided it's time to end the cycle. Now comes the part the philosophers and poets alike would relish, divine exposure. Here's what makes this revelation different from the everyday dramas of human life. It will not come to you through gossip whispered in a hallway or rumors dressed up as facts. It won't even arrive by accident. No, this unveiling will be delivered in real time, orchestrated by the same cosmic intelligence that spins the galaxies. The mask will not simply slip, it will disintegrate under the weight of truth. And how will it happen? Not with fireworks or grand confessions, but with something smaller, subtler, almost banal in its ordinariness. A slip of the tongue at the wrong moment. A compliment that accidentally twists into a barb. A flash of jealousy that crosses their face when they thought no one was looking. A casual remark that reveals they've been studying your weaknesses like a scholar preparing for an exam, except the exam was always how best to use those vulnerabilities against you. When it happens, Leo, it will sting. It will sting because betrayal in the open battlefield is one thing. When you face an enemy sword to sword, you at least know where you stand. But when the betrayal comes from across your own dinner table, when the hand pouring your wine is the same one hiding the dagger, that is a different kind of wound. It is the kind of wound that doesn't just pierce the skin, it pierces the trust you place in the very idea of loyalty. And yet, here's where my years of studying the Zodiac, human psychology, and the timeless teachings of spiritual masters converge. This is not betrayal for betrayal's sake. This is not some cosmic cruelty designed to harden you into cynicism. This is divine education. This is the universe, the Buddha, the sun itself reminding you to trust your inner radar, the one you've silenced too often in the name of keeping peace. That little twinge in your gut? That sigh of unease you brushed off as paranoia? That was not fear. That was intuition knocking. You dismissed it to preserve harmony, but harmony built on self-betrayal is no harmony at all. So the exposure that awaits you is not a punishment, but a curriculum. It is a graduate-level course in discernment, Leo. It will teach you to stop extending loyalty as a reflex and start extending it as a choice. To stop giving trust like confetti and start giving it like a sacred relic. And yes, it will hurt. But in that hurt lies the gift. Once you learn that not every smiling face deserves a front row seat to your kingdom, you'll reserve that space for those who are truly worthy. And that, my luminous lions, is when your generosity ceases to be an Achilles heel and becomes, once again, your crown. Let's take a moment to step into the psychology of the pretender, and for that I'll invite you to imagine the world as one long theater. Some people write their own lines, take the risk of being authentic, and perform with heart. Others, however, prefer to wait backstage until someone like you, Leo, shines under the spotlight. They don't audition for their role, they borrow yours. Why? Because your shine is effortless. You are ruled by the sun itself, and radiance for you is not a choice but a condition of existence. You walk into a room and the atmosphere changes. For others, that kind of presence would take years of study, gallons of sweat, and possibly a few questionable self-help seminars. And so, instead of doing the difficult work of self-discovery, they do what opportunists have done since the dawn of time, they siphon light from those who have it. You've probably seen it before. They laugh at your jokes a little louder than necessary, loud enough for the table next to you to notice. They nod with exaggerated enthusiasm at your plans, but only if those plans stay small enough not to threaten their comfort zone. They frame their caution as concern, saying things like, "I just don't want you to get hurt," but what they really mean is, "I don't want you to soar so high that you no longer need me." In public, they play the role of your most loyal fan. In private, they whisper to others that Leos are always a little dramatic. And here's the kicker, many of them don't even fully realize they're doing it. Envy has that sly, parasitic quality. It cloaks itself in loyalty so convincingly that sometimes even the pretender believes in their own devotion. But the soul knows. And your soul, Leo, has been whispering to you all along, something is off. You've just chosen not to listen. And that leads us into the pain of naivete, which is also the birthplace of clarity. When this revelation arrives, and you will feel the sting. It will bruise your pride to admit that you defended this person, vouched for them, maybe even argued against others who suspected their duplicity. You'll remember little moments where your intuition twitched like a cat's ear picking up a distant sound, and you brushed it off as paranoia. You'll want to scold yourself, "How could I not see?" But here's where wisdom steps in with its quiet hand on your shoulder. Your naivete wasn't weakness, it was evidence of your purity. It was proof that you believed in loyalty, in friendship, in love enough to give someone the benefit of the doubt. That does not make you foolish, it makes you noble. The shame never belonged to you. It belongs entirely to the one who chose deception over authenticity. And then comes the moment of clarity. Once the wound has been acknowledged, once the tears or the anger have burned themselves out, you will suddenly see your past with new eyes. Projects that stalled, opportunities that slipped away, relationships that fractured without explanation, you will realize they weren't random misfortunes. They were interference. And when that interference is gone, the shift is almost shocking. Watch how quickly your energy soars. Watch how swiftly doors begin to open. Watch how your natural rhythm, once dragged down by invisible anchors, accelerates again like a lion finally freed from a cage. That's the gift in the pain, the reward hidden in betrayal. The universe does not expose to humiliate, it exposes to liberate. And in your case, Leo, that liberation is timed with precision. Because this isn't just any year. This is your year of triumph 2025, the chapter where the interference is cleared, the masks are shattered, and your path forward is no longer dimmed by borrowed shadows. So do not despair when the pretender is revealed. Yes, it will sting, but it will also set you free. And if I may add a touch of humor to this cosmic lesson, consider the irony. They spent all that energy pretending, rehearsing loyalty like a role in some low-budget play, only to trip over their own lines in the final act. And there you are, the sun itself, too bright to ever be eclipsed. In the end, Leo, you don't lose. You only learn, and with every lesson, you rise. Leo, let us lighten the weight of this conversation, because while the cosmos can be fierce, it also has an impeccable sense of humor. Think about it, someone close to you may have spent months, perhaps years, auditioning for the part of loyal confidant. They memorized the lines, rehearsed the perfect supportive smile, and mastered the timing of their applause. To them, it was a long-running theater production, and they thought they deserved an award for their performance. And then, without warning, the curtain falls. One slip of the tongue, one too sharp comment, one jealous glance too obvious to hide, and the whole stage collapses. What you see in that moment is less Shakespeare and more slapstick, a tragic actor who forgets their lines mid-scene and blurts out, "Fine. I never liked you anyway." The drama becomes comedy, and the mask they cherished shatters in the most awkward way possible. Of course, betrayal still stings in the moment. There's no sugarcoating that. But trust me, your future self will one day sit back, sip a drink, and chuckle about how your number one supporter turned out to be your most persistent saboteur. The burn fades, and what remains is the education. You'll joke about how the applause was really camouflage, how the compliments were more rehearsed than sincere, and how cosmic justice delivered its punchline at just the right time. And isn't that the most Leo thing imaginable? To take betrayal and turn it into art, to spin pain into performance, to wear your scars not as shame but as medals of honor. You, Leo, are the storyteller of your own myth, and every false friend who crumbles under exposure only provides you with better material. But behind the humor lies a serious education, and this is where philosophy and psychology converge. The lesson is discernment. Your intuition, call it a sixth sense, call it spiritual radar, call it the Buddha's quiet bell, is not a nuisance. It is your divine ally. Every time you silenced that unease in your chest, every time you brushed off the flicker of doubt in your gut, you weren't being noble, you were delaying the inevitable truth. The universe, like a strict but wise teacher, simply decided you'd postponed the lesson long enough. So here is the vow you are called to make: no more excusing strange behavior because you'd rather believe in the fantasy. No more dismissing discomfort in the name of harmony. No more silencing your sacred radar to avoid conflict. From this moment forward, if it feels off, it is off. Period. No debates, no second guessing. And here's the gift tucked inside the discomfort: this revelation will sharpen your radar forever. After this, you won't just notice false smiles, you'll sense them from a mile away. You won't just feel the twinge of jealousy, you'll spot it before the mask even forms. What once wounded you becomes armor, what once confused you becomes clarity, and what once drained you becomes a reservoir of wisdom. The universe has not played a cruel trick on you, it has prepared you. And with that preparation, Leo, you walk into your year of triumph not weakened, but fortified, your laughter louder, your discernment sharper, and your light entirely your own. Leo, when the mask finally falls, it will sting for a moment, but what comes next is liberation so profound it might feel almost unfamiliar. You'll mourn the fantasy of who you believed this person to be, but as soon as that illusion dissolves, your life will start to flow again in ways that almost feel magical. Projects that sat idle will begin to move with momentum. Friendships that quietly drifted will circle back into your orbit. Opportunities you thought you missed will suddenly reappear as if they were waiting for you to remove the interference. And in the place once held by false loyalty, genuine love will enter. Not the polite applause of people who only support you when it's convenient, but the wild, fearless cheer of friends who will celebrate you when the stakes are high, when it's risky, when it really matters. These are not people who feed off your light but those who add to it, companions who shine beside you like stars that only enhance the brilliance of the sun. That is the divine promise. When you let go of what is false, you clear space for what is real. Let's be clear, Leo, you are not simply another zodiac sign moving through life on autopilot. You are a chosen one, and chosen souls inherit chosen lessons. Your light will always attract both butterflies and moths, admirers and opportunists. Part of your journey is to learn the difference, not once, but over and over until discernment becomes second nature. This betrayal is not punishment, it is preparation. The universe is sharpening your awareness so that in your year of triumph 2025, you'll be surrounded not by those who flatter, but by those who build, not by those who cling, but by those who rise with you. So when the exposure arrives and it will dauntingly crumble under its weight, don't waste your fire on revenge, and don't let bitterness steal your grace. Instead, nod at the universe, whisper message received, and step forward lighter, freer, wiser, and ready for the life that belongs to you. Because the sun does not lose sleep over shadows, Leo. It rises anyway. And so will you. That, my radiant lions, is the message. If you feel this stirring in your soul, it is not coincidence, it is alignment. The divine has already begun its work. So trust yourself, embrace the lesson, and most of all, enjoy the life that is opening before you. And if this message speaks to you, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to Golden Fortune Leo, where your light is honored, your path is celebrated, and your journey is never walked alone.